Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into the vast Mongol Empire today.
A fascinating choice, and very timely given the renewed interest.
Absolutely. And for this deep dive, we're going way back to the 13th century.
Right to the source. I love it.
We've got to understand the impact this empire had on, well, everything.
On the world.
But also how they interacted with the West, right?
A clash of civilizations, you could say.
Exactly. And lucky for us, we have an incredible source to guide us.
Oh, do tell.
A first-hand account from a Franciscan friar who journeyed right into the heart of the Mongol Empire.
Wow, right into the lion's den, so to speak.
Basically, imagine being a man of God,
Yeah.
setting off into the unknown like that.
I mean, talk about a leap of faith.
Right. It was Friar William of Rubruck.
Okay.
And his mission, straight from King Louis IX of France, no less,
Wow. High stakes.
was to travel to the Mongol court.
Now, this is 1253, correct?
That's right.
So the Mongols were just hitting their stride, militarily speaking.
Exactly. Stories of their conquests, their ruthlessness, it had to be terrifying.
So what would possess someone to willingly walk into that situation?
It's a good question. I mean, Friar William, he was a man of peace,
Right.
but also a man driven by his faith.
So maybe he saw it as his duty,
To understand this unstoppable force.
and maybe even to convert them.
It was an incredibly daring journey, but what he brought back,
Yeah.
priceless. His account gives us this unique perspective on a civilization that
That we often just reduce to, like, the Mongols were brutal conquerors. End of story, right?
right. But Friar William, he shows us their daily lives.
Their beliefs, their struggles,
He makes them human.
which is so important.
Yeah,
Because understanding the everyday stuff, that's how we connect.
exactly. And he doesn't shy away from the hard stuff either.
Like what? Give us an example.
Imagine entering a world totally different from anything you've ever known, right?
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Friar William describes these nomadic people living in felt tents, some so large they required dozens of oxen to move.
Whoa, serious?
Yeah. He talks about the food, the customs, everything.
What kind of food are we talking about?
Oh, you know. Fermented mare's milk. That was a staple.
I'll be honest, that one doesn't sound too appetizing.
He doesn't exactly rave about it, but it shows you the reality of their lifestyle.
How they were adapted to these,
Fine.
the harsh conditions of the steppes.
Exactly. These details, they paint a picture of a people who were resourceful.
Resilient.
A world away from what a European like Friar William was used to. It really makes you appreciate the adaptability, right?
Absolutely, to thrive in those
It
conditions.
had to be tough.
No kidding. And that's something that I think gets overlooked, We talk about the Mongol conquests, but what did they conquer with?
Right.
It wasn't like they had this super advanced technology. They relied on their knowledge.
Their ability to live in those extreme environments.
Exactly. Those tents, that food, those horses.
Yeah.
It all speaks to how the Mongols, how they not just survived, but thrived. Became this powerhouse.
Yeah. This was a society built for like mobility and endurance.
Which you've got to admit plays into their military success too.
Absolutely. But it wasn't just practicality, right? It went deeper than that. Their belief system, for instance, Friar William, he encountered something totally different.
Different how?
Well, it was this mix of things. Shamanism, for one. That's where they believe in, like shamans. They're like intermediaries between the physical world and the spiritual world.
Okay, I've heard of that, yeah.
Yeah, so they had that, but then they also had ancestor worship.
Interesting.
And here's the kicker, a surprising openness to Christianity.
Really? So they weren't completely closed off to outside religions?
No, not at all. In fact, this mix of spirituality and like pragmatism, it's something you see throughout Friar William's account, especially when he reaches the court of Mongol Khan, the great Khan.
Right. Mongol Khan. And that's where we see this whole other side of the Mongol Empire. This wasn't just about, living in tents and drinking fermented milk. No. This was an empire with its own internal power struggles.
Ruthless maneuvering.
Exactly. And Friar William, he walks right into the middle of it.
He did. What happened?
Well, there was an assassination attempt on Monkey Khan.
Wow.
And not just, some random attempt. This was orchestrated by Monkey's own cousin, a guy named Sireman.
So even within the family, there were these power grabs.
Oh, yeah. Despite Monkey's power, Sireman, he thought he could take the throne for himself.
Ambitious.
To say the least. Friar William describes how Sireman, he was spreading rumors, trying to win over key allies. He even planned to take out Monkey during a hunting trip.
Wow. Talk about ruthless.
It really gives you a sense of, This empire wasn't this perfect unified front. There were these internal conflicts bubbling under the surface.
Ambition and treachery, just as much a threat as any outside enemy.
Exactly.
So what happened to Sireman? Did he get away with it?
Oh no, not a chance. The Mongols, they might have been fierce in battle, but they also had these incredibly effective intelligence networks.
Word gets around.
You know it. Monk found out about the plot, and let's just say he wasn't too thrilled about it.
I bet not. What'd he do?
Sireman and his eldest son, along with a bunch of their co-conspirators, they were executed.
Wow.
Oh, and they didn't stop there. They even interrogated the wives.
Sending a message.
Oh, absolutely. A very clear one. Treason. Not happening on our watch.
That's intense.
It was. It's this really fascinating contradiction, because we've talked about Friar William observing this, like religious tolerance amongst the Mongols.
Oh, right.
But then you have this brutal punishment for, going against the Khan. It makes you think about Monk Khan himself,
What kind of leader was he, really?
Exactly. Complex, that's for sure. Ruthless when he had to be, but also deeply interested in religion.
Really?
Yeah, he wasn't just interested in conquering and converting. He was looking for something more. He wanted to understand the truth,
So how did that manifest? Did he, have a favorite religion?
Actually, he tried to stage these theological debates.
No way.
Yes. He brought in people from all different faiths. Christians, Muslims, Buddhists.
Wow.
Can you imagine being a fly on the wall for those conversations? The arguments, the clash of ideologies. He wasn't necessarily looking to convert anyone. He wanted to understand what these different beliefs offered.
Yeah.
How they saw the world. Maybe even how those views could help him maintain his own power, keep things stable.
That's fascinating. It's like he was using religion as a tool to understand not just the spiritual world, but the political one, too.
Exactly. He was a pragmatist, that's for sure. But it also shows this openness to different ideas, which I think is pretty impressive for a ruler at that time.
Definitely. Were there any particular religious groups that had more influence in the Mongol court?
Well, one that really stands out is the Nestorian Christians.
Okay.
They were a branch of Christianity, but they'd kind of gone their own way centuries earlier. Spread eastward, established communities in Persia, Central Asia, even parts of China. They actually had a slightly different theology than the Roman Catholic Church back west. Weren't exactly on the best of terms.
Oh, so kind of like the black sheep of the family.
Yeah, you could say that. But here they were, advising the Mongol Khans. Some even had positions of power within the empire.
That's wild. It's like this weird intersection of history you wouldn't expect. So we've got this powerful leader interested in religious debate, a court influenced by this outcast branch of Christianity. Where does Friar William fit into all of this? Was he able to make any headway with Monk Khan?
Well, converting the entire empire. That was a tall order.
Yeah, just a tad ambitious.
But Friar William's role, it was important. He became this key player in the whole dance of diplomacy between the Mongols and the West. And get this, after their interactions, Monk Khan entrusted Friar William with a letter.
A letter? To who?
To King Louis IX.
Whoa. Okay, so this wasn't just any old how you doing letter. This was a message from the great Khan himself. What did it say?
Well, in it, Monk Khan makes a pretty bold claim. He asserts his divine right to rule. Like God himself gave him dominion over the world.
Confident guy.
Right. He then demands King Louis's submission.
Oh, so it was a declaration of war.
Not quite. Not a peace offering either. It was more like Mugug was laying down the law. Acknowledge my authority, pay tribute. It was classic Mongol diplomacy.
A little bit of carrot, a little bit of stick.
Exactly. And knowing what we know about their military might at the time.
Yeah, that stick probably looked pretty menacing.
I'd say. It must have been quite the message for King Louis to receive.
Makes you wonder what King Louis was thinking when he got that letter.
I know, right? What a moment in history. But sadly, we don't get to hear about that from Friar William.
Yeah, he focuses mostly on his own experiences, his interactions with the Mongols himself.
Which, to be fair, is a goldmine of information in itself.
Oh, absolutely. It's this incredible window into their world, and it really highlights that the Mongols were so much more than just conquerors.
Right. They were strategists, diplomats, even, as we've seen, theologians in their own right.
It's easy to forget that when you just focus on the battles and the conquests.
Totally. Take their military prowess, for example. We know they were effective.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just about brute force.
Oh, no, not at all. Friar William talks about their discipline formations, their psychological warfare,
Oh, yeah, they were masters of that.
and of course their archery skills were legendary.
Those mounted archers were something else.
Right, like
Yeah.
something out of a movie. But what's interesting is how they adapted.
Adapted, what do you mean?
Well, Friar William, he describes how they wouldn't just stick to one way of fighting. They'd use ambushes, feints,
Okay.
even siege warfare when they had to.
Wow. So they were able to analyze their enemies?
Exactly. They were constantly evolving their tactics, which makes their success all the more impressive.
Absolutely. They were always learning. And it wasn't just on the battlefield. Think about their impact on trade and cultural exchange.
The Silk Road.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Despite their conquests, they established and maintained those trade routes connecting East and West.
Which had a huge impact on the world.
A lasting impact. And we're still feeling it today. It just goes to show that the Mongols, they weren't just about expansion and conquest.
Right. They were facilitators, too, of trade, of ideas,
Yeah.
of technologies.
Unintentionally or not, they helped to create a more interconnected world. And that's something we often overlook.
We do. And it kind of makes you think about legacy, doesn't it? Like even history's most powerful figures.
Yeah.
Even those known for their ruthlessness.
Like Genghis Khan.
Yeah, exactly. They still leave behind this complicated, multifaceted legacy.
Right. The good with the bad. The Mongols under Genghis Khan, Mongol Khan. They were destructive, but also transformative.
Mm.
It's not so black and white.
It's not, and that's what's so amazing about these deep dives. We get to see those nuances, those contradictions, and I think ultimately the humanity of it all.
It's a good reminder that history isn't just dates and battles.
No, not at all. It's about people, their choices, their beliefs, their mistakes.
And their triumphs, too.
Absolutely. Friar William's account, it's just one story, but it's a powerful one. A man of peace journeying into the heart of an empire that, frankly, wasn't known for its peace.
It reminds us that history is rarely, if ever, simple. And there's always more to learn.
Always. And that's why I encourage everyone listening to go check out these primary sources themselves.
Read those firsthand accounts.
Because those are the keys to understanding not just the past, but also our present, maybe even our future.
Well said.
Well, that's our deep dive into the Mongol Empire, a civilization that continues to fascinate and challenge how we view the past.
Thanks for taking us along for the ride.
Of course. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into history.